Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again. This is the second part of Vivian Gunsett's webinar. So thank you so much for being there and for joining us. And don't forget to say hello in the chat box so we know that where you're from. Tell us where you're from. If this is your first webinar, if you attended the first one. Hello from Salvador. So it's very nice to have you there. There is I would like to share with you some important pieces of info before Vivian starts today's presentation. At the end of this session, you're going to receive 2 links, okay? You're going to receive the first link, which is going to be your customizable certificates with the PowerPoints and the materials that Vivian is sharing with us. And the second link is going to be a feedback form, okay? So about the customizable certificate, it's important that you know that the certificate that you are going to receive is going to be blank. Your name is not going to appear there because this is a generic certificate, okay? What you have to do is print it and then you complete it with your name and you know, with your name, your last name, the way you wanted it to appear, okay? The reason why we're doing this is to make sure that there are no problems in spelling and the way you want your name to appear on the certificate. So make sure that you, by the end of today's session, make sure that you download the PDF to either your phone or to your computer, okay? Because that link is going to have an expiration date, okay? So I wanted to let you know about these 2 things, all right? So thank you, welcome. I see people from Asunción, I see people from Pedro Juan, from El Salvador, and many other places. So it's great to have you here today. San Lorenzo as well, Encarnación, Lambaré, lots and lots of places. So thank you so much for joining us. And now I'm going to introduce you to Vivian. Thank you, Vivian, for this second presentation that you're sharing with us this afternoon.
Thank you all for being here, and it's a pleasure to be for the second time here. And so to begin with, for the people who weren't here last time, I just wanted to tell you that this will be a little bit of a different webinar for some of you because we will be talking about emotional stuff and we'll be sharing some things that you might not share with other people. But the good thing is that you don't have to type if you don't feel comfortable with that. So just as long as you feel comfortable, you can type your answers, okay? So let's start. Today we are going to cover resilience. And we are going to start with the first activity. And to start, please, I would like you to read these thoughts. So if you are dealing with a difficult situation or you have a challenge or something is stressing you, what thoughts come to mind? So I would like you to think about this and just do it silently. And once you pick all the ones that apply, you can type done on the chat box and Elena will help me and she will tell me when almost half of you is done so we can proceed. So the first thought that can come to your mind can be that when I have a stressful situation, I say I may never get over this, or I know I can get through this and I'll probably be stronger because of this in the end. Another thought can be, why is this happening to me? It can also be, I can't always choose what happens, but I can choose my response. You can also think I should make an action and I should make an action plan and follow it diligently. And also you can be thinking things are unfair or they are out of my control and I feel angry and anxious. Another way of thinking can be, as much as I just want to get over this situation, I keep thinking I should have done this, if only I knew this, I could have done that. So if any of this sounds familiar to you, you can check it and you can type done when you finish.
We have received a few dones already, and also some answers such as I can always choose what happens, try to keep positive, I can't choose what happens, but, and lots of dones. I can always choose what happens, but I can choose my response. That's another answer. I can always choose what happens, but I can choose my response. Still, I get to feel very anxious.
Okay, great.
I know I can get through this, and I'll probably be stronger because of it in the end. And lots of dones as well.
Perfect, perfect. So why did I ask you to do this at the beginning? So you can know what kind of mindset you have before this, and you can choose the skills that I'm going to be talking about. You can choose the ones that will benefit you, and you can learn from it. And like any habit, we have to practice, and that's most of the talk today. We are going to be learning the process of thinking after we face a difficult situation. So thank you so much for your participation, and just keep in mind your answers to this so you can grab as much information and skills so you can apply it on your life. So with that being said, we can start. And what is resilience? So it's just facing stressful situations and bouncing back. Yes. So we can have stress about our work, our relationships. We can have a family member that has a serious health condition, or we can have it ourselves, or we can have financial stressors. So it's just like this tennis ball. We face with that stress, and then we bounce back and we recover from it. Okay, so let's see. For those gamers who are in the webinar, this phrase might sound familiar for you. And the phrase is, life is like a video game, and the challenge of today makes us better equipped to deal with the challenges of tomorrow. Okay, so I'm not saying that we should say, oh, thank you, stress, for being in my life, but sometimes it's just helpful to see it in a positive way, and that will give us more tools to be stronger for the future. Okay, so resilience involves thoughts and actions that can be learned and can be developed by anyone. So let's say I want to get fit. So do you think I should go to the gym and exercise just once, or should I do it twice and I will get the results I want? I don't think so. I should go regularly, and I should repeat the same action over and over again to be stronger and to get fit. So that's the same thing we should do with resilience. We should practice and train our brains to focus our attention on thoughts that we choose and thoughts that are positive. Okay? So this is the second exercise of the day. And for this, I would like you to just look around and touch whatever is close to you. Yes? So for example, I have this pen. Yes? And this is actually an exercise for kids. It was developed for kids, but I think the results are very useful. So that's why I picked this exercise. So just pick anything that is around you and try to touch it, and just focus on the feeling of touching it. So I feel the plastic part is kind of hard. I don't like touching it. Then the rubber part is kind of softer. And then the pointy part, I think, is what I like the least about it. So I don't feel this is a nice thing to touch. So if you happen to have something very soft and squishy and fluffy, good for you. That might give you a very comfortable feeling, very pleasant feeling. But if you don't, I want you just to put it down, whatever you touched, and just train your mind to focus in something soft or fluffy. And I happen to have a marshmallow, but I know that many of you don't. So you can think about a bubble wrap like in the picture, or silk, yes, and just focus in the feeling of touching that, okay? just for a few seconds. And if you want to share what you're thinking about, kids come up with very creative ideas to this, but I just put 3 examples. So if you want to type what was your idea of a nice thing to touch, you can type it, and then we will read it. And this exercise was just to model how we can shift our focus and we can train our brain to think about something more comfortable for us. So if you would like to share with us, I would love to read your answers. Elena will help us read some of your answers if you're typing some of your ideas.
Okay, so here they come. A nice thing to touch, my bed. It feels like a marshmallow, but you cannot eat it. Then we have, I touched a hairspray, a hairspray can. It was cold. My plant, my t-shirt, a soft blanket, a teddy bear, my cat. Um, it's a beauty sponge, a piece of cloth that my baby uses to erase her whiteboard, my cat, my hair, my desk, and it's soft, my pillow, my warm coffee mug. Those are some of the answers.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I like the cat one. It's so nice to pet dogs or cats. They feel so soft. Yes, awesome. So with that little exercise, I want you to keep that in mind, how we train our brain to stop thinking about something uncomfortable and just shift and think about something more positive, okay? So when we are overwhelmed by a difficult or a stressful situation, let's say that is our work or in our families, it can be any kind of stressful situation. We should train our brains to focus our attention on something that we enjoy or something that is meaningful for us and do something about it. Let's say you have a hobby or you practice a sport or you love to be in the company of someone. So try to do something about what brings you strength and what brings you safety in that moment that everything seems so overwhelming, okay? So that can be translated tracking our resources, because when we are in that state of like, this is too big, I will never get over this, maybe we just need to think about the place or the person, or maybe it's faith that brings you happiness and brings you to a safe place. Yes. So how do we recognize that we are stressed or that we are facing through a difficult situation? We feel very uncomfortable body sensations like shallow breath, rapid heart rate, tense muscles, and we also can see that we are very edgy, irritable, anxious, we feel angry all the time. So when we are able to recognize and we are self-aware of those symptoms, we can change our brain focus into these people, these activities, these places, or faith that brings us joy, okay? So when we have that in mind, when we have already changed our focus, we should be aware of the body sensations, okay? And where in your body do you feel it? Do you feel warm? Do you feel safe? Do you feel that you're calm? Or what sensation does that thought bring to your body, okay? So if we are able to calm ourselves, then we can go back to analyzing the stressful or difficult situation. And the first question that we should ask to ourselves is, how are we interpreting the difficult or stressful situations in our lives? So it's very normal that we say, what if I did this? Or if only I knew that, or I could have done this. So that is what is all the time in our heads, just feeling guilty sometimes because we did something wrong. But to prevent all of this, we should keep in mind the 3 P's, which are personalization, permanence, and pervasiveness. And don't worry, we are going to go through all of them, and we are also going to see some examples. So let's see, the first P is personalization. So that is thinking that, oh my God, I am the problem, and there must be something wrong with me. And instead of thinking that, if I consider and I recognize that other factors contributed to this bad situation, I might be able to take or to decrease the guilt and the blame and the criticism that I put onto myself. Yes? The next P is permanence, and that is thinking that this bad situation will last forever. Yes? And if we do the opposite, we are more able to adapt and to accept the reality. Yes? And the last P is pervasiveness, and that means that we feel that just one bad situation affects all the areas of our lives. Okay? And now we will go to an example. And I don't know if you remember last session, I talked in my examples, all of them were women. So now I'm gonna go with a men example. So this is teacher Jose. Teacher Jose lost his job. So that is very stressful for any of us, yes? So one way that teacher Jose has to think about this bad situation is saying, I am not good enough, there is something wrong with me. He can also say, I will never find a job again, and I also failed as a father. But the second option of Jose is thinking more positively and in a healthier way. He can say, okay, the school or the institute where I used to teach is struggling, and my skill set did not fit the current needs. He can also say, I will find a job soon. And finally, this only applies to my work. This doesn't have to do anything with my family, hobbies, or social life, okay? So I invite you, if you are in a difficult situation like Jose, to think in the second mindset, yes? So just think and be self-compassionate about yourself. And you are doing your best, so this will help you to cope with this difficult situation in a healthier way. I know I talked about supportive relationships in the last session, but this time I want to focus on this phrase that I love, and it is "Don't yak my yum." And it might be funny for some kids too. And this means that, let's say a friend comes to us to tell us a story, and we cannot help but thinking like, oh, why did you do that? You should have done this. And we criticize their decisions, or we question their actions. And sometimes that can feel very discouraging. So we should be more welcoming and accepting, and we should create that space where people feel safe, okay? So just to elevate each other, if we want that for ourselves, we should do it too, okay? And the next skill is the ability to make realistic plans and actionable steps. So in order to do this, how do we start? I consider first we should adjust our standards, and it's very normal that we demand perfection from ourselves and from others. But sometimes we have to practice self-compassion when we don't meet some expectations. And when we expect somebody to do something and it's not done the way we want it, we should keep in mind that everyone is doing their best. So just be compassionate to yourself and to others. And to follow these actionable steps and realistic plans, I will do I will tell you a short example. And we have our second fictional character of the day, which is also a man, and his name is Richard. So Richard has a big goal, okay? He wants to get in shape. And this was something that he struggled all his life. And he tried many things, and it was always hard to do it. So he tried to go to a gym, but then he quit it because he was doing weightlifting and the weights were too heavy. He felt frustrated and uncomfortable, and he thought he could never do it. And also now Richard is trying to quit all the junk food that he loves so much, but he's trying to cook for himself healthy food. But sometimes he finds it very time consuming, so he ends up eating whatever he finds around his workplace. And so he has a plan now that it might work. Just a small goal, just walking and jogging for 15 minutes every day. Just setting that small goal so he doesn't have any excuse because he has a crazy schedule at work. And he thinks that with this, there will be no failure. And he shares this idea with a friend. And his friend tells Richard that it's a great idea, he should totally do it. And the friend agrees that maybe if he tries running first, it will be too frustrating because Richard's cardio is very bad. So it's great that he starts just by walking and jogging. So, but also his friend recommended Richard to try the gym one more time, but with a different mindset. And what his friend said really convinced him, because when you're learning something new, you really need all your cognitive bandwidth. I don't know if you remember from last time we talked about that. And you are learning new movement, you are learning to coordinate and synchronize your body, and then lifting weights. It takes a lot of space in your brain. So his brain told him, okay, you should look at like this. It is a physical exercise, but at the same time, it will help you mentally, because in that moment, you will be able to put away all your work issues and concerns, all your problems that you have in your family, and it will be also a way to feel calm and to be refreshed after the exercise. And Richard never thought of exercise like that. So he thought, okay, I can give it a try with this new mindset, yes? And the goal was always small, yes? So he will try, the first goal is just 15-minute walk or jog a day, and then in time, that will become a 3-kilometer run. And the first small goal is just one set of squats or one set of whatever exercise, and then that will become a full workout session. So he tried that for a month, and he learned to deal and manage his frustration. And the secret, as you can see there, the key is just to do something very small and then do it regularly, and you can increase with time. That is the key to build a new habit, okay? And the next skill, we are going to talk about problem solving. And for this, we are going to have another fictional situation. But first, let's see what are the 5 stages, yes, of problem solving. The first stage is to empathize, then is to define, to ideate, to prototype, and to test. So let's see, what is the meaning of empathize? So by understanding the problem and its causes, we can be more empathetic towards the other people that are involved in this problem. And we should think about all the points of view, and we can ask other people if we have to understand the problem better. And then we should be able to define the problem. And it's very normal that when we define a problem, we focus on the negative side of the problem and the lack of options that we have. And instead of doing that, we should focus on the more positive side, and that way we will be more able to create a solution. Then to ideate is to just create ideas. They don't have to be great ideas. They can be very bad ideas, but then we can transform them and they can become something better. The next is prototype, and that is to get the ideas into a physical form. So we have to check what we need to apply those ideas, and we need to choose not only what is best for us, but also for others. And the final stage is to test, that is to put into practice and measure the results. So continuing with Richard's story, Richard was trying to get fit, and he has a co-worker that picks on him, that always makes fun of him for being fat. So he is tired of this situation. At the beginning, he was just laughing, but now he's sick of it, and he is going to put into practice these 5 stages, and he's going to try to solve this problem, okay? So what is the first step? This first step was to empathize. I know it's very hard to think about the person who's causing the harm and trying to empathize with him or her, but it will be helpful. Richard thinks that maybe his coworker is being threatened by a situation. So his coworker is saying all that mean stuff to him just as an outlet for his frustration. So that's the first stage of it. Now he's going to do the next one. He's going to define the problem in a positive way. The real problem is that his coworker is just being mean. He's telling jokes that are not funny. But the positive way of thinking about the problem is that Richard acknowledges his effort and accomplishment because he's not staying in the same path, and he's creating new habits to become fit, and he's taking action. And the next step is to ideate. Remember, I told you that they can be very bad ideas. So the first one is a very bad idea. Find one of the weaknesses of the coworker and just make fun of him, like an eye for an eye, yes? And the second idea is to talk to the coworker and stand up. Richard should stand up for himself, yes? And then in the prototype stage, he chose to do the second idea. So he is going to tell his coworker to stop doing that, and he's going to say, I've had it. I'm sure you won't like it if someone makes fun of you. So for the testing stage, he's going to wait for his coworker to say something mean to him again in front of everyone. And he's just going to try and see what is the reaction of the coworker, expecting that it works, yes, that it has a positive result. And if it doesn't, he will do this planning again and try something new until it works. Yes. So that is just a short example of how to put into practice these stages. And for the next one, we have organizational skills. Yes, I know I've talked about traffic lights. I'm in love with traffic lights, but this one is different, okay? So with this traffic light, we are going to learn how to make priorities clear, yes? And when you have many tasks, you need to prioritize which one you should do right now and which ones can wait, yes? So I'm gonna show you in a model, but first let us understand what are the colors. What are the meaning of the colors, okay? So the color red means tasks that are not urgent. The color yellow means tasks that are stuck and that need intervention. And color green are things that are done. Okay, and when you see all your task list in green, it feels so good because you accomplished everything that you were trying to do. That is a very great feeling to have. You can do this just in an Excel sheet or maybe even Word, or you can use apps to do this. But let me just first show you this basic example. That is, for example, I have to do a practice test for my second graders, yes? And I have to do it by June 20th. So the next steps that I have to do to get this activity done is downloading pictures of natures and family to add to the test. So it is in color yellow. Why? Because I am stuck there and I need to intervene, yes? The next one makes me feel relaxed because it's green. I don't have to do anything about it and it's before the due date, okay? And the third one, it says, finish the PowerPoint presentation of Unit 5. And this is for third grade, and we have the due date, and I still have something to do. I'm stuck here because I need to add a short clip to the PowerPoint presentation. And the last one is not so urgent. That's why it's in red. And we as teachers know that we put our needs last, and this is a proof of this. Like, I have to schedule an appointment with a doctor, but I put that to the last minute. And here are the next steps that we can do to do this. I'm not saying that we should do this. We should put ourselves first, and that's the way we help others. So just keep that in mind. And these are some apps that we can use also to organize ourselves. The first one is kind of more informal, is just for our activities and remembering them, and not so much to work with groups if you manage a team. But the second one, Slack, yes, it's pretty cool if you work in teams. And Trello, you can also use that to color code your activities and your tasks. And I put monday.com down there because after the free trial period, you have to pay for it. But the first 3 ones are completely free. So here I leave you with some of the resources I used to prepare this presentation. And thank you very much. And I will leave you with Elena so she can invite you to this next presentation.
All right, so thank you, Vivian, for today's presentation. And I was just commenting in the chat box that I used the model of design thinking. Thank you, Catalina. I was struggling to remember the name of the model, and for other purposes. And it's actually pretty cool for me personally to see that it can also be applied for other things, right? Such as social emotional intelligence. In my experience, I used it with an entrepreneurship project, so it was pretty cool, and it really works it really works very well. So if in case something that I would like to mention to all of you is to invite you for our next session, which is next week. We are presenting this topic, reflective teaching strategies, is going to be presented by Natalie Celada. And it's going to take place next week at 5 p.m. The registration link is right there. It's bit.ly TESOL Method June, and you can also find it in all our social media. So make sure that you go there, that you register in case you're interested in joining us next week, okay? Another thing that I'd like to mention, please make sure that you follow us on all our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, because there you are going to find lots of information about our upcoming events, and also about information about how to become members, etc. Something that I would like to mention before we share your customizable certificates and materials for this session. It's going to appear right there in a few minutes. You're also going to find a link with the evaluation form, so please take a minute to complete it because we value your feedback, we value your input, so please make sure that you do that, okay? And I don't know if there are some questions or anybody that would like to say anything or ask or comment. Please just type it in the chat box. I would like my mic on, or you can just type it in case you don't want to speak but you want us to read your comment. Please feel free to do that. We're going to either open your mic or we're going to read your message in case you're interested in sharing a little bit more, okay? So while you make up your minds, or maybe while you're typing, I would like to thank all of the people that are joining us today. Yes, we are going to do a photo session in a minute. I'm just giving people a little bit of time in case they have a question or something or a comment that they want to share. Today's we have participants from lots of different places, from Asunción, from Encarnación, San Lorenzo, Pedro Juan, Asunción, Oenau, Kawasu, Cambureta. So thank you so much for joining us. And also people from Honduras, from El Salvador, Bolivia, and Dominican Republic. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And also make sure that you join us next week as well, and check our calendar as well, because we have more things for you.